Sometimes, especially when we're dealing with something that's tender for us, it can be hard to put a gap between the advice that's coming in and our response. But when we're diligent to do so, it gives us back the power to choose.
Hi there, I'm Vanessa Kaiser, a ranch girl turned social worker, business leader, and now entrepreneur. I'm passionate about diving into organization, leadership, personal growth, and efficiency. Around here, we call it rhythmic living, that continuous cycle of assessing the season of life that we're in and creating habits, routines, and processes that serve us best. This show is for the busy, the dreamers, the tired, the go-getters, those who want to live fully, grow steadily, and feel inspired each day. Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast.
Have you ever taken to the internet to find a cure for something that ails you? How do I get rid of my lower back pain, or heal my acid reflux, or start getting up earlier on a more consistent basis? And then inevitably, your search results give you the opinions of everyone and their grandma, and the opinions range from just drink a little hot lemon water to you probably need surgery to amputate it, and everything in between. It's funny because most of us have been guilty of a deep dive Google search only to walk away 100% convinced by a complete stranger that if indeed we will stand on our heads, kick our left leg 3 times, and recite the FFA creed, our back pain will naturally disappear. Beyond the humor, though, haven't we all had to sort through advice in real life too? Girl, you need to rest. You can't pour from an empty cup. You better start making time for that or you're going to regret it. If it were me, I would wait to chase that dream until the economy is a little better. You should probably stop working so much. You're going to get burned out. And sometimes those words sting. But does the sting mean that they're true or that someone was just a little too blunt? How do we know what advice is solid? How do we quiet the noise and make decisions that actually move us forward? When we are bombarded with advice and thoughts from all directions around us, sorting through it can be overwhelming. And if we're really honest, it's incredibly stressful. So today, we're going to dive into 5 strategies to embrace the advice that really serves us and to just leave the rest for the birds.
Do you ever wish there was a natural, science-backed way to ease aches, boost your mood, and even support healthier skin? I felt the same way until a friend introduced me to LumiBox. Not too long ago, I was venting about long-time ankle pain to one of my girlfriends, and she encouraged me to check out LumiBox, a red light therapy device. She brought it with her for a girls' weekend because this is what it's like to be in your 30s, my friend. I gave it a whirl, and after just a couple of days, I can honestly tell you I was sold. That was the beginning of my journey with this incredible tool for holistic health. Now, LumiBox is a Kaiser family favorite. We use it for everything from soothing aches and eczema to giving our mood a gentle lift on tough days. Here's the deal. LumiBox harnesses the power of red light and near-infrared wavelengths to promote healing deep beneath the skin. Backed by science and loved by so many, it's a simple, natural way to support your mind and body. And for a short time only, LumiBox is offering my listeners an exclusive $260 discount. Just visit LumiBox.com and use the coupon code INSPIRINGHEIGHTS at checkout. Don't wait, this could be your next step towards holistic health. I'll put the link and the coupon code in the show notes.
Strategy number 1, get serious about who you're seeking advice from. In a moment of frustration, worry, anxiety, or stress, it can be really easy to reach out to anyone and everyone who might be willing to listen to our woes. When we take to social media, our next door neighbor, and sometimes even certain family member or friends for advice on a topic that they don't really have any business giving advice on, we will 100% for sure find ourselves knee-deep in the thoughts of people whose thoughts on that specific subject matter may not hold the most wisdom. This situation that we sometimes put ourselves in isn't always a production either. It's not always taking to Facebook to air our dirty laundry. Sometimes we just innocently overshare information while we're having a cup of coffee with a friend, and all of a sudden we find ourselves swimming through their ideas that perhaps maybe don't match our convictions or our lifestyle or situation. When we are wrestling with a decision, a problem, or even a dream, it can be wise for us to pause and make a conscious choice about whose counsel we might want to seek. Once we make the list, reserve sharing the subject matter for only the people on that list. This does two things. First, it reduces the amount of advice coming our way by really not giving other people an opportunity to weigh in, at least not in the form of an open invitation. And then the other thing that it does is that it helps us to get serious about seeking actual advice and not just looking to add fuel to an already well-kindled fire. Strategy number 2, pause before responding. Sometimes, no matter how much we try to be careful about who we're actively asking for wisdom from, people will offer up their unsolicited advice anyway. And when that happens, we can be tempted to immediately respond, even if it's just emotionally. Quick story. When we first moved back to the homestead, we were coming out of a pretty hard church situation, and we were really working to heal from it, but we were hurting. And in a random conversation with a sweet family member, they asked where we were going to church. And I explained that we were actively looking at a couple different churches, but we were really taking our time on calling one home as we had just experienced some pretty significant church hurt. The 5-minute lecture that ensued was wildly unexpected. I got an earful of thoughts that I wasn't prepared to hear, and honestly, I could have done without. In that moment, though, I had a choice. I could choose to let those words send me into a tailspin, to question everything that hubby and I had been working through, and ultimately to walk away saying, "Come on, Kaiser, get over it. Move on. Stop being so emotional." But here's what I knew. I knew that that advice wasn't good. As much as I love the person who gave it to me, I knew that advice wouldn't help us get where we wanted to go. And I knew that there was no sense in giving it any energy or room. So I didn't. I kindly sat it down and just didn't really respond. I nodded my head, I changed the subject, and we moved on in the conversation. Sometimes, especially when we're dealing with something that's tender for us, it can be hard to put a gap between the advice that's coming in and our response. But when we're diligent to do so, it gives us back the power to choose how we're going to respond with both our words and our emotions. It's like pulling up the toll bridge, if you will. If the advice, though unsolicited, is actually worth considering and responding to, we can lower the toll bridge and wave it through. But if it isn't, we can just let it fall in the water. Strategy number 3, learn how to voice your boundary. Like in that story above, sometimes we just simply need to politely change the subject and move on, right? Other times, though, especially if someone is being persistent in giving their unwanted advice, we might have to set a boundary with them. This lesson has been so interesting to me as I've gotten older, because as kids, we're taught that adults are safe and that they know how to handle every situation, right? I mean, yes, by and large, we teach our kids to, distinguish safe adults from non-safe adults, but safe adults are safe and they know how to handle everything. And as an adult, would you say that's true? No, we're sitting here going, what? That is not true. I do not know how to handle every situation. But my point is, it takes some undoing from this lesson that we have drilled into us as kids to realize that not every adult has good advice on every topic. And sometimes, even if they are trusted and lovely humans, they don't know the situation well enough to have wise input. And it can feel weird to put up this boundary, especially with someone who's older or someone that you would consider to be a close family member or friend. The thing is, just because they're close doesn't mean that they're close to this particular situation or that they have the expertise, the experience, or the knowledge to opine on it. So how do we set good boundaries with people when they continue to ask questions or offer advice that we don't really have room for? We do it with a mixture of respect and confidence. It is okay to say to someone, no matter if it's a friend or your mom, hey, I really appreciate your care for me in this situation, but this is a topic that I'm just not really open to discussing at this time. Or this is a conversation that hubby and I are keeping between us. If we need your advice, we will definitely ask for it. Thank you so much for understanding. Friend, we all need wise counsel. But also, we know ourselves and our situations, and it's good for us to own that piece. If we pretend like we don't know up from down and that we need wise counsel to take any steps forward throughout our day, we are disregarding our own knowledge and wisdom as well as that of anyone who's closely tied to the situation, like a spouse. So yes, seek wise counsel, but it is okay to acknowledge that not everyone gets permission to speak into your life or into a specific topic in your life, even if they have gone before us.
Hey, you, can I ask you something? Does your to-do list ever feel like it's running you instead of the other way around? Do you find yourself wishing for more time, less chaos, and a whole lot more peace? Trust me, I've been there. And that's exactly why I created the Productivity Playbook, Strategies for a Harmonious Life. This course isn't about cramming more into your day. It's about creating a life that actually feels good to live. We'll dive into time management strategies that work, build routines that bring peace instead of pressure, and tackle those overwhelming moments with confidence. Whether you're juggling work and family, managing a business, or just trying to stay sane in a busy season, this course is here to help you take a breath, take control, and build a present and fulfilling life. Ready to take the next step? Head over to inspiringheights.org/courses and grab your spot in the Productivity Playbook today. Because a harmonious life isn't just possible, it's waiting for you. Let's do this together. I'll link this all for you in the show notes.
Strategy number 4, give yourself room to process. I remember when I was offered 2 different jobs in 2 different places. And the decision was a big one because I was leaving a job that I had built, a boss I loved, and a whole crew of people that I call my own. I wanted to make the right choice, and everyone around me wanted the same thing. I remember after visiting one of the potential locations, I took the evening to sit in my room with a sheet of paper and a pen and write a pro-con list. I just needed a second to quiet all the noise and all the questions of everyone around me who loved and cared for me and only wanted what was the very best. I needed to look at the facts of what was in front of me. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to do in our day-to-day life. We need time to not have to answer the questions of other people, but to have a moment to answer our own questions. We need to look at what we know and what we don't. We need time to evaluate our emotions and our desires. We all have different personalities, so this hits differently for some than others, but sometimes isn't it easier to keep talking, to keep sparking the same conversation, but with different people to chase maybe a sure answer, or perhaps even sometimes to get the answer that we want to hear instead of the answer that we need to hear? Quieting the noise isn't just an act of kindness for ourselves. It is actually an act of discipline too. And strengthening our discipline in sitting quietly to process and think can be one of the greatest gifts to ourselves. Strategy number 5, don't abandon your convictions. Like I said earlier, sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up in getting advice from others. But when we do this, sometimes we can leave our own convictions behind in pursuit of the affirmation and the direction of other people. This is the added component to that weird lesson that we're learning that comes with age. The realization that, in fact, we do have an opinion on our situation. We do have thoughts on what's happening. We do have dreams and goals and desires. We do have hurts. We do have past experiences that have a direct impact on how we're responding. We do have wisdom from a life that we have lived and the lessons that we have learned. And it's important that in the midst of a decision, in the midst of a trial, in the midst of just a normal run-of-the-mill situation, we don't forget it. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones left to deal with the repercussions of our own decisions. So by all means, our decisions should reflect our convictions. I'm going to say this one more time before we wrap up. Wise counsel is critical to a well-lived life. Sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees. Sometimes we are treading in what is uncharted water for us, but is old hat for someone who has lived and gone before us. Sometimes we are too emotional to see what is true, and we need someone a little further removed to help us see the truth. The idea isn't that we abandon advice from others altogether. It's that we approach that advice with wisdom and clarity, owning and knowing our own role in decision-making and ensuring that others' opinions and advice has an appropriate seat at the table. I want to leave you with these 3 questions today. Is there a boundary that you need to set? Is there some unsolicited advice taking up space in your brain and your heart that you need to let go? And are there people you need to scratch off your advice list on certain topics? When we feel like we are drowning in advice from other people, it's good to pause and evaluate. How do I hold the wise counsel and feed the rest to the birds?
And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Do you have questions, comments, or insights on today's content? I would love to hear from you. You can DM me on Facebook or Instagram, or head over to our website, inspiringheights.org, and click on the Contact Us form. I will link all those locations here in the show notes. P.S. If you haven't already, I would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a quick review of the podcast. This helps get our content in the hands of new listeners. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and follow us on social media for rhythmic doses of inspiration. All right, friends, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.